Dan Hampton, The Flight, Charles Lindbergh's daring and immortal 1927 transatlantic crossing. In May 1927, a young pilot named Charles Lindbergh embarked on a daring adventure to change the future of aviation forever. Dive into The Flight, a gripping account of Lindbergh's solo nonstop transatlantic crossing from New York to Paris. As author Dan Hampton provides an engaging narration of this remarkable feat, delve into the history leading up to the historic flight. Learn about the unparalleled challenges faced by Lindbergh and his revolutionary aircraft, and explore the social and political backdrop of the time, as a tense America eagerly awaited news of their new hero.
The Flight of a Lifetime. In 1927, Charles Augustus Lindbergh took off on an ambitious mission to fly solo and non-stop from New York to Paris, hoping to claim a monetary reward and prove that aviation was the way of the future. Lindbergh's departure was marked by the memory of 6 pilots who had already died in the attempt. However, aviation enthusiasts were determined to advance the field and bring nations closer together through the sky. As Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic in his reliable Spirit of St. Louis, many people were rooting for him. Indeed, if he succeeded, his flight would open the door for transatlantic mail and intercontinental passenger flights, as well as silence critics who suggested flight was just a passing fad. The future of aviation rested on Lindbergh's shoulders, marking the flight as a historical moment that symbolizes humankind's eagerness to brave new feats and push the boundaries of technological advancement. Spirit of St. Louis. Lindbergh's journey across the Atlantic was a feat made possible by the Spirit of St. Louis, a specially designed plane equipped with a powerful engine and massive fuel tanks. The plane was constructed to be as light as possible and equipped with features to compensate for its weight, such as longer wings and a periscope to help Lindbergh navigate with an obstructed view. With no room for a parachute and other essentials, Lindbergh's survival rested on the strength of his plane and his determination to succeed in his mission. Lindbergh's roots and rise. The Lindbergh family legacy of ambition, resilience, and taking risks played a vital role in shaping Charles Lindbergh's future as an iconic pilot. Slim's grandfather lost his government job in Sweden for fathering an illegitimate child but found success in his son, Charles August Lindbergh, who became a successful lawyer and congressman. Lindbergh's potently ambitious parentage and stern upbringing prepared him well for a life of adventure. Charles dreamed of becoming a pilot from a young age and pursued an education in mechanical engineering at the University of Wisconsin but eventually left to pursue flying. He obtained real-world experience as an aerial stunt performer and eventually flew for a living, carrying airmail between Chicago and St. Louis. By preparing for his historic journey, Lindbergh finally achieved his lifelong goal, flying solo across the Atlantic in the Spirit of St. Louis. The power of flight. As World War I came to an end, aviation underwent a transformation. Improvements in planes, such as the addition of ailerons and advancements in engines, made flying more efficient. Lieutenant Commander Albert Cushing Reid's successful flight across the Atlantic in 1919, although with multiple stops, inspired the young Charles Lindbergh to pursue his dreams of flying. The end of the war also marked a challenging period in American history with the implementation of prohibition and societal fears surrounding communism and anarchism. Lindbergh's successful flight not only symbolized the future of aviation but also served as a much-needed source of pride amid the country's struggles. Lindbergh's perilous night flight. On May 20, 1927, Charles Lindbergh faced several challenges as he flew over the Atlantic Ocean, including sleep deprivation, navigational difficulties, and freezing temperatures. Despite the lack of visible landmarks and the fogged-up windows, Lindbergh stayed awake by focusing on his logbook and shaking his head. He also had to trust his instruments and the moonlight to avoid dangerous storm clouds. With temperatures dropping to -5 degrees Celsius, Lindbergh faced the risk of engine failure due to ice formation. However, his primary focus was on keeping the windows clear to maintain visibility. Lindbergh's successful navigation over the Atlantic without a second pilot was a significant achievement that propelled him to international fame. Lindbergh's historic flight. Lindbergh successfully navigates his way over Ireland, England, and the Channel before landing the Spirit of St. Louis at Le Bourget Airfield in Paris after being in the air for 33 hours and 30 minutes to a wild reception of over 100,000 enthusiastic spectators. After a grueling 16-hour open-water flight, the legendary aviator, Charles Lindbergh, spots Ireland's Dingle Bay, signaling the end of a critical stage of his journey to Paris. While the hard part may be over, Lindbergh still faced many challenges before landing at Le Bourget Airfield in Paris. Flying over England and the Channel, he eventually followed the Seine, hoping to make it to his final destination before nightfall. However, darkness had already descended, and the airfield was poorly lit. Lindbergh struggled to pick out the right patch of land but eventually landed after circling a few times. Despite this difficulty, Lindbergh managed to complete the journey in 33 hours and 30 minutes, beating his expected time by 3 hours. When Lindbergh landed at Le Bourget, he was greeted by a massive crowd of over 100,000 enthusiastic spectators who wanted to be a part of this historic journey. Even the Joint Committee of French and American authorities tasked with whisking Lindbergh away upon arrival was unable to handle the wild turnout. While officials had planned to have a look-alike impersonator wave and satisfy the crowd, they could not have anticipated the level of excitement the pilot's arrival would generate. Ultimately, 2 pilots helped to pull Lindbergh away from the throngs of people and brought him to the American ambassador's residence, where he finally rested after being awake for 63 straight hours. Lindbergh's life beyond the flight. Lindbergh's life took a dramatic turn after his famous flight as he embarked on a European press tour, received numerous honors, and went on to have a controversial, publicity-fueled life. After Charles Lindbergh's flight across the Atlantic, he embarked on a European press tour, where he gained even more fame and received various honors, including the French Legion d'honneur and the Air Force Cross awarded by King George V. Upon his return to America, he embarked on a 3-month tour to promote aviation and air travel, solidifying his status as a world-renowned aviation hero and securing his financial future. However, having never sought fame and fortune, Lindbergh discovered his dislike for being in the public eye during his press interactions and was further disheartened by the media's unethical behavior after his youngest child was kidnapped and later found dead in the woods. Lindbergh's ensuing move to England was a way to escape the media frenzy and public scrutiny. Despite his initial opposition to U.S. involvement in the Second World War, Lindbergh went on to serve his country by flying 50 combat missions, providing important technical support to the Allied forces, and acting as a field advisor. However, his controversial views caused backlash and alienated much of the public. Lindbergh eventually retired to Hawaii and passed away due to lymphoma. Despite his many accomplishments and contributions, his complicated relationship with the media and controversial beliefs added an added layer to his legacy.
As Charles Lindbergh set foot on Parisian soil, the world cheered at the success of his incredible flight. The flight takes us through the painstaking planning, harrowing 33-hour journey, and the afterglow of triumph that would forever change aviation history. Bold, ambitious, and fiercely determined, Lindbergh's life was deeply affected by the crossing's aftermath and the pressures of fame. From becoming an aviation icon to a World War II combatant and field advisor, the influence of his transatlantic endeavor rippled throughout his lifetime. Hampton's account reminds us of the power of human determination and the unyielding spirit that continues to inspire and shape the world of aviation today.